start on that issue of benefits. So Penny Morton, a member of the Cabinet, saying they should be increased. Liz Truss, the Prime Minister, in a series of interviews saying no decision has been made. I mean, where's the message discipline here?
Well, exactly. The government needs to take a line and explain what it is. And I'm going to say something which I don't say very often, which is I agree with Penny Mordaunt, and I think she got this right. I think the government has made a commitment to uprate benefits. It shouldn't take on battles it can't win. People feel insecure going into the autumn, and I think it should stick to this commitment. We should, of course, for the future, look at incentives to work, and probably there is going to have to be reform over time, but choose your moment and reassure people and take people with you. That will be my view following the events of the last few days.
And the sense is that she's going to end up in that place anyway, so just say it sort of sooner rather than later and avoid all questions like the ones I'm putting to you.
Well, I think so. If that's where she's going to end up, it will be best to be clear about things. We don't need endless argument about it. You're absolutely right.
People are always interested in your thoughts. You have been speaking at events at this conference. You backed Liz Truss, I should say, to be leader. You're a strong advocate of hers. And you said the government should err away from things we know are going to be highly controversial, and the losers are going to be extremely visible. Just explain in a bit more detail what you meant by that.
Yeah, so what I think is that, the government is trying to do the right thing. There's no doubt we should be going for growth and trying to improve economic prospects. But for the last 15, 20 years, nobody has really talked much about free market economics. Nobody's talked much about how you get economies to grow and what that means, what's going to happen. You can't just land people suddenly with a lot of change and reform and expect them to like it. You've got to build the coalition. You've got to work out which elements of this you can get through and which you can't, and try and bring people with you. And that takes time. So much more time explaining, persuading, choosing the battles, getting things in the right direction without rushing at everything in the first few days.
Is she going to be a battle on sort of your thesis that you shouldn't do things that are highly controversial and the losers are going to be extremely visible? Uncapping bankers' bonuses. That seems pretty controversial.
It's controversial. It affects only a few people. Nobody is worse off because bankers get bigger bonuses. In fact, they're better off because they pay more. They pay more tax in the UK. So I think that's one of those things that, explained well makes sense. But of course, it's not fundamental to the project. The important thing is structural reform and change and boosting growth more broadly.
So we've talked about the problems of party discipline, so central for any party to be singing from the same hymn sheet, not sort of freelancing and talking about that whatever their particular favourite policy or thought is at the time. And it's not just people who backed Rishi Sunak, because there was some suggestion, well, it's all the people who backed Rishi Sunak. I mean, Michael Gove actually and Grant Shapps, they are arguably sniping from the sidelines. Do you have messages for them? Because I don't know how you stop them, really. And if big beasts like that are going to continue their commentary in the run to the next election, that's incredibly unhelpful.
So I think it is unhelpful to do things which are aimed at destabilising Liz Truss. She's just won a leadership election with a very clear... We had a clear choice between Rishi's version of economics and Liz's. She won. I think destabilising her does not make sense. But I do think that it's right for Liz and her team, which is quite inexperienced, the team around her, to listen and to reach out and to take advice from people who are supportive and want to avoid getting into these unnecessary confrontations.
And Priti Patel, who's always been a loyalist, really. But she today will criticise the government for too much borrowing. It's like a free-for-all here. Once people feel that they can express their thoughts freely, I don't know how you turn back that clock.
Well, that is the problem. And of course, the U-turn on the 45p rate has let people think that other things might be up for grabs, and so it's producing this this effect of people piling in. I mean, it comes back to what I said earlier. You need to persuade, you need to be clear, you need to explain. That's not just communication. You've got to get the right decisions and the right policies. But when you know what they are, you've got to explain them and bring people along. And when people don't understand, they'll fill the space themselves.
And you mentioned communication skills. How do you rate her communication skills?
So I thought people were impressed with her during the leadership campaign.
Yeah.
You know, the feeling that, you know, some people said at the start she was a bit wooden, that seemed to disappear.
Yes.
And she was pretty good, I felt, and people reacted to that. I think we just need to see a little bit more of that, a bit more kind of spontaneity and, you know, explaining, telling, bringing people along, telling it like it is, not repeating scripts.